Let's play this clip on Face the Nation. Here's Nancy Pelosi just making utterly pathetic excuses.
Madam Speaker, I want to talk to you, of course, about abortion. California's Governor Gavin Newsom said Democrats have failed to target Republicans on this issue. Here's what he had to say.
Where is the Democratic Party? Where's the party? Why aren't we calling this out? This is a concerted, coordinated effort. And yes, they're winning. We need to stand up. Where's the counteroffensive?
Madam Speaker, why were pro-abortion rights Democrats outmaneuvered?
I have no idea. The fact is that we have been fighting for a woman's right to choose, and that is to choose.
Okay, first of all, I have no idea. To any shitlibs who stumbled upon this stream or this video when we clip it for YouTube, to all of the Democratic loyalists out there who say that we're too extreme, you know, we're too divisive, blah, blah, blah. Is that an acceptable answer from the leader of your party 4 days after this fucking ruling come down? Right? Is that acceptable to you? She has no idea.
Flavor of ice cream, and all of a sudden they told me that Roe had been repealed.
Right. Is that an acceptable answer? I have no idea. You have no idea how pro-choice Democrats got outmaneuvered? Well, hint, she answers her own question a little bit later in this segment.
We have been fighting against the Republicans in the Congress constantly because the fact is they're not just anti a woman's right to choose in terms of terminating a pregnancy, but in terms of access to contraception and family planning and the rest, both domestically and globally. Mm-hmm. This is a constant fight that we've had for generations, decades, I should say, right. In my case, in the Congress. And we had been bipartisan early on, support for a woman's right to choose.
Yes, in 1971, there was bipartisan support for a woman's right to choose. Again, 50 years ago, literally 50 years ago. The Republicans went anti-abortion during the 1976 presidential race, which was the next one following Roe. That's when they decided to make this a wedge issue. So this era in which both parties were pro-choice was a half a fucking century ago, number one. But number two, she contradicts herself a few seconds later in the most ridiculous way imaginable. You probably can't even see this coming.
Until the politics have changed. And that's what happened to the court. Yeah. The science hasn't changed. But the court changed, and therefore they're deciding that it will be different. I have no idea why anybody would make that statement.
You have been fighting for decades on this issue, but back when Democrats held majorities in the House and the Senate, 2009, when you were Speaker, President Obama was asked about codifying Roe versus Wade and said abortion's a moral and ethical issue and, quote, not the highest legislative priority. Do you think it was a mistake for him, for other presidents, not to push harder when Democrats had the majority?
If I just may, the focus we have right now is an urgent one in order to try to improve this, what we're calling it, fake or draft decision, whatever it is. I think that this is a waste of time. The fact is, in 2009, we really did not have a pro-choice Democratic Party.
Aha! Let me play that again.
I think that this is a waste of time. The fact is, in 2009, we really did not have a pro-choice Democratic Party.
In 2009, we did not have a pro-choice Democratic Party. That's really interesting because I remember campaigning for Barack Obama in 2008. I remember volunteering for him. I remember donating to him. And, of course, I remember voting for him. All the while, I was under the impression that I was supporting a pro-choice party. I would not have volunteered for an anti-choice Democratic Party. I would not have donated to an anti-choice Democratic Party. I sure as hell wouldn't have voted for anyone representing an anti-choice Democratic Party. So she says 1 minute ago, I remember when the Republicans were pro-choice. And then the next minute she says, as of 2009, we did not have a sufficiently pro-choice coalition inside our own party. I mean, it is absolutely stunning. It is stunning that the leader of the party can go up here and talk like this. Don't worry, Axel, we are clipping this segment. That's why we're here this evening. Don't worry. That is absolutely stunning. Jaw-dropping. There's more to play, but go ahead. You could, if you want to give a reaction to that while I cue the rest of this up.
Well, what I have been noticing, and this is actually what my next article is about. By the time we're done with this, you're down to the shittiest shit libs that ever got shot. Like, they're losing even more of their base of support. The fact that the Republicans actually widened their enthusiasm gap with Democrats after this leaked. It didn't tighten, it widened.
Yep.
Republicans are 9% more enthusiastic. Democrats are 7% more enthusiastic for I believe it's a 13% gap on the enthusiasm. That is amazing. This is the whole glue that holds the whole shit livery together.
Right. This is the one issue that keeps your party somewhat together. Exactly. This is the one. This is not some weird issue. This is not some boutique issue, some niche issue. This is the one issue that holds your party together as a functioning unit. And you have the Speaker of the House go up here with this utter nonsense just days after it is announced that Roe versus Wade is being overturned.
The fact is, in 2009, we really did not have a pro-choice Democratic Party. I had to fight against some of the people who did not want to pass the Affordable Care Act because they were concerned that it might enable more freedom of choice. It really didn't go down that path.
That is true. There were centrist Democrats who objected to some of the reproductive health care measures in the ACA, and she had those measures taken out in order to pass the bill. But those people who objected were not Republicans. The ACA passed without a single Republican vote. Those people she's talking about were the anti-choice Democrats, which she now admits had a stranglehold on the party as recently as not 1971, not 1981, not 1991, 2009.
Well, she's still endorsing them. She's still endorsing.
And she's still endorsing them. She endorsed Henry Cuellar over Jessica Cisneros, and the day after this ruling passed, James Clyburn went and fucking rallied with him.
Right now, we do have a pro-choice Democratic Congress. And
oh, that's good. Right now, we have a pro-choice Democratic Congress.
Not with Cuellar.
Well, he's one. But yeah, no, right now. Yeah.
And we passed the law a month, more freedom of choice. It really didn't go down that path. Right now, we do have a pro-choice Democratic Congress, and we passed the law a month ago, and last, I think, September.
You did in the House.
It's been a while. It's a number of votes. But
the votes aren't there in the Senate.
Well, the Senate is, you'll have to talk to the Senate about the Senate, but I do think that it puts an urgency.
Okay, you have to talk to the Senate about the Senate. Then she says it puts an urgency on November because we have to expand the majority, blah, blah, blah. You'll have to talk to the Senate about the Senate. She's basically saying, not my department. That's basically what she's saying. Let me ask the shit libs one more question. All the Democratic loyalists, one more question. And I say this because, in all seriousness, I don't want any of you to lose any of your rights. Even though I hate your guts, I want to defend your rights. Okay? Does this sound like a...
You and me?
Yeah, exactly. Does this sound like a person who gives a shit that your rights are under fire? Does this sound like a person who cares at all? Making these gobbledygook excuses about how as recently as 2009 we were not a pro-choice party and the Republicans used to be a pro-choice party back in the 70s, and we passed it in the House. You have to talk to the Senate about the Senate. And was Obama wrong to promise all these advocacy groups that he would codify Roe and then just totally did never bother to do it? Well, I think that's a stupid question. I think that's a waste of time. We passed it. Now the Senate is going to have to pass it. Talk to them. Does this sound like a woman who gives a fuck? Just ask yourself that question. Does this sound like someone who gives a fuck? I mean, how obvious does this have to be? It is just, it's truly incredible how you could send her out there. I mean, that first clip we played was in a conference. I don't know if she expected it to blow up like that. This was Face the Nation. This is the Sunday morning talk show. And you go up there so unprepared for these questions. You sound like an 8th grader giving an oral presentation in fucking biology class when you clearly didn't read the chapter. And the teacher starts pressuring you on the key points of fact, and you have nothing to say. This is the party leader during such a moment of crisis. It's truly stunning, and this is why there's that enthusiasm gap, because this is going to have the opposite. This isn't going to galvanize the Democratic vote. How could you go out and vote for these people after watching that clip? How?
That's the problem. As progressives, this is all par for the course for us. We're used to being treated this way. We're used to the party committing just the most horrific acts of we don't give a fuckery against their voters. We are their voters. We call for Medicare for all. We call for affordable college. We call for the end to mass incarceration. We call for a living minimum wage tied to inflation. And, we're used to this kind of thing where Pelosi the next day will go, well, we're capitalists.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
We're used to that. We've been getting treated that way forever. That's how they always treat us. And then you've got to read it on the op-ed page of the New York Times, what a bunch of fucking assholes you are, right? The PMCs are not used to being dealt with this way, i.e. their actual fucking base. Those suburban wine moms are not used to being gaslit and denied in this way. They're not used to being treated like shit under Pelosi's shit. This is their usual way of dealing with their voters. But it never really occurred to the PMCs because it didn't really affect them. It didn't affect anything they really cared about. It didn't affect anything that they really felt like they needed. It didn't affect any of their legislative priorities. Now it does. And this is what's kind of amazing to me. Their default, this tells you that their default is so much, I don't give a fuck. I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to listen to anybody. I don't have to cater to anybody. I am just entitled to my position. I'm entitled to my status. That they haven't even figured out that they have to pivot because they're not dealing with the Sanders people now. They're dealing with their actual donors and their actual base. And they just can't do it. They're just used to treating anyone who questions them this way. And it's not going to wash. It's not going to wash because those are their last voters. The only time they can win elections is when you get a total economic collapse or a biblical plague that scares enough independents into voting with a group of people that's, let's face it, most of the country, if there's one thing we can agree on, we all find the base of the Democratic Party fucking repulsive. Once in a while, people are terrified enough about what the GOP will do in an existential crisis that they'll hold down their vomit and vote with these people. You're not even going to have those people?
Right. Because now you're signaling on this issue. I mean, do not tell me that the Democrats are powerless in this situation. They have the presidency, they have the House, and they have the Senate. Oh, Joe Manchin doesn't want to suspend the filibuster to codify Roe. Look, if there's one thing we know about Joe Manchin is that he has a price. And so you drag him into the Oval Office, you sit his ass down, you find out his price, and you meet it. Say, we'll set you up with your own fucking coal mine, and we'll force the child tax credit recipients to work it in there for free for a year for you in your fucking coal mine. You do whatever the fuck you have to do to get his signature on that bill, to get a yay vote from him to abolish this fucking filibuster and do this now. This is what you have to do right now. Don't tell me you can't do it. That's not acceptable. That's just not it is not acceptable to say that, well, we can't do any, we can't codify Roe versus Wade. Of course you can. You have the majority in both chambers, and you have the presidency, and you have a guy in the way who, yes, he's a piece of shit, but of course he can be bought. So buy him if you have to. You have to get this done. Aren't the moderates supposed to be the ones to get things done, right? That's why we can't have left-wing leaders, because the lefties don't know how to get things done. This is the whole rationale for your candidacy, for your presidency, for everything. You have to get this done. There's absolutely no excuse not to. Absolutely no excuse not to. And, Newsom in that clip, yeah, I mean, I only heard a few seconds out of context, but if that's the thrust of what he's saying, he's right. He's right. Where's the Democrats? It's almost like the Democrats have no power here. We're acting as if the Democrats are powerless to do anything. They have the presidency. They have the House. They have the Senate. You have some corrupt pieces of shit.
They're not there to do anything. They're there to enrich themselves and to enrich their donors. That's what they're there for.
Of course. Well, that's what I mean. That's what's becoming so obvious. Yeah.
Right. But whenever anything comes up where they would have to, take a stand or do something, it becomes very obvious. They're just, they're just hanging out. It's like people think they have a football team, and they got a bunch of people who just lay around on the beach getting drunk all day, and then they want them to go play the Raiders.
Right. Exactly.
This is not. You don't have a football team. You have a bunch of fucking insider trading layabouts who wouldn't know how to fight this fight if they were getting paid inside information. This fight, they wouldn't know how to fight.
I'll say once again to the people of San Francisco, what the fuck are you doing? This is not a swing district where,
not just that. No, it's the Democratic Party.
No, but I mean the people who vote for her, because that is the PMC. Like, San Francisco is a PMC town. It's not like New York where, yeah, Wall Street's there, but you also have a lot of working class people there. No, San Francisco is this tiny little, beautiful city on the bay that's been just overrun with tech scum, and now they own the whole place. And so, that's who puts Nancy Pelosi in power. And these fucking people, I mean, there is no excuse for this. That is so embarrassing. That is so shocking and embarrassing, both of those clips. It's shocking and embarrassing at any moment. In this moment, when your base is terrified, rightfully terrified, and you go up there and talk about how we need a strong Republican Party and how the Democrats weren't even pro-choice until fucking, 10 years ago they became... It's just absolute nonsense. Absolutely mind-boggling that you could send her out there and talk like that, and that she could just talk like that, or, smile. She didn't seem like she was under much pressure. She was...
Well, and they're just like
time.
Democrats. I mean, that's what you would have expected. You got to elect more Democrats. We didn't do that. I mean, that's always the story with them. It just never affected their base. Like, we're used to this. You want Medicare for all? Yeah, no, you got to vote more Democrats. You want a minimum wage? You got to vote in more Democrats. Like, we've been playing this game with them for a very long time. But the PMCs are not used to it. Their real base is not used to it.
Yeah, and let me just, this is a ridiculous argument. I don't even have to go here for us and for our audience, but I'll just entertain these people for just a second. Any strategy for dealing with this that relies upon Democratic majorities in 2023 is not a strategy. That is not a plan.
Yeah.
Now, Democrats, because the Senate map does favor them this year, right? And because the Republicans seem set to nominate some really questionable characters like Dr. Oz and this fucking, what's the guy in Georgia, Herschel Walker, right? There's enough crazy on the ballot in close swing states.
COVID spray.
Right, exactly. That maybe the Democrats do hold the Senate. Maybe. I don't think they're going to. Maybe they even pick up a seat or two in the Senate. Whereas what Nancy is saying there, well, hey, give us 52 seats, then we'll suspend the filibuster. It doesn't even matter because by then you've lost the House. And you need the House in order to get to the Senate, in order to get the bill to Joe Biden's desk. And you're not keeping the House. I mean, that is like a statistical 0% chance that you're keeping the House. So even if you manage to pull out a miracle and even gain a seat or two in the Senate, you're guaranteed, no question at all, losing the House. Especially with talk like that, you're fucking losing the House. But you're losing the House this year. You have, a 5-seat majority as is? There ain't no way you're keeping that. So any talk of we just have to elect more Democrats and then we'll fix it, that can't happen. That can't happen. It will not happen. That is not a plan. That is a non-plan. And so there's just absolutely no excuse not to get it done now. They have the majorities now. They're slim, yes, but they have them. And if you can't pull your coalition together in this moment of crisis, then what good are you? You know what you're about as useful as? Let's all do it together. An asshole.
Asshole
right
here.
Please clap.